Alex never believed in fate. He believed in deadlines, coffee, and the constant grind of city life. Fate, as far as he was concerned, was just a word people used when things went either really well or really badly. But that was before he opened the door to his new apartment and saw her standing there with her suitcases. The landlord had assured him the place was his alone, a rare, affordable one-bedroom in the heart of the city. But there she was, brunette hair tied in a messy bun, oversized hoodie, and an expression that screamed, "Who the hell are you?" "I think you're in the wrong place," Alex said, tightening his grip on the keys. She raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "Funny. That's exactly what I was about to tell you." A brief, awkward silence filled the air as both of them pulled out their rental agreements. Sure enough, 2 signatures, 2 tenants, 1 apartment. "This has to be a mistake," Alex muttered. "Clearly," she replied, shoving her papers back into her bag. "But unless you plan on sleeping in the hallway, it looks like we're stuck." Her name was Emma. She was in her mid-20s, studying graphic design, and apparently had a talent for showing up exactly where Alex didn't want her. Their first hours as roommates were a disaster. He liked order, she thrived in chaos. He lined his shoes neatly by the door, she kicked hers off in the middle of the floor. He brewed strong black coffee every morning, she dumped sugar and milk until hers looked more like dessert. Within a day, the apartment felt too small for both of their personalities. "You left your wet towel on the couch," Alex snapped one evening. Emma didn't even look up from her laptop. "And you reorganized my side of the fridge." Again. "That's because you can't just throw everything in there like it's a garbage bin." She finally glanced at him, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You know, for someone who doesn't believe in fate, you sure act like a control freak about it." His jaw clenched. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means maybe the universe is trying to teach you how to share." He scoffed, retreating to his room, though her words lingered longer than he'd like to admit. The days blurred into a routine of quiet battles, competing for bathroom time, arguing over the thermostat, negotiating chores. Yet, beneath the irritation, there was something else. Something he couldn't quite name. One evening, when a storm knocked out the power, they found themselves sitting in the living room surrounded by candles. The rain tapped against the windows, thunder rumbling in the distance. Alex expected silence, but Emma broke it with a laugh. "You look miserable without your laptop," she teased. He shot her a look but couldn't help the small smile tugging at his lips. "And you look too comfortable with chaos." For the first time, their banter felt less like a battle and more like a bridge. She told him about her passion for art, how she saw beauty in imperfections. He admitted his obsession with order came from growing up in a house where nothing was ever stable. By the time the storm passed, something had shifted. They weren't just strangers forced to share space anymore. They were 2 people caught in an arrangement neither asked for but maybe, just maybe, needed. Alex still didn't believe in fate. But as he watched Emma fall asleep on the couch, the glow of candlelight softening her features, he wondered if fate believed in him. The first month of living together was like a tug-of-war neither Alex nor Emma wanted to lose. Every day felt like a new skirmish, music volume, laundry schedules, whose turn it was to take out the trash. Yet for all the bickering, there was an undeniable rhythm forming, an odd kind of balance. Emma would leave her art supplies scattered across the coffee table, and Alex would grumble as he stacked them neatly in the corner. She'd roll her eyes, call him a neat freak, and then, without realizing, she'd start keeping her paints on one side, leaving him space for his laptop. One morning, Alex stumbled into the kitchen half asleep to find her dancing barefoot, earbuds in, whisk in hand as she tried to beat pancake batter into submission. The smell of vanilla and butter filled the air. He blinked at her, groggy. "Is this normal?" Emma pulled one earbud out, grinning. "What, breakfast?" "Yeah, some of us eat before noon." "I mean the performance." He gestured vaguely at her twirling hips. She smirked. "Don't pretend you're not entertained." To his own surprise, he laughed. Really laughed. And when she flipped a pancake onto his plate minutes later, He realized it was the best breakfast he'd had in years. Their daily battles began to soften into something else. On nights when Alex worked late, Emma left the lamp on by the couch, a quiet gesture he never acknowledged but always noticed. When Emma had a bad day with her professors, Alex showed up with her favorite chocolate bar, muttering, "Don't read into it," as he shoved it into her hand. But it wasn't all sweetness. Their personalities still clashed like lightning against steel. One evening, Alex came home to find paint splattered on the floor, a half-finished canvas propped against the wall. "Emma, this is a rental," he shouted, gesturing at the mess. She popped her head out of her room, brush still in hand. "Relax. It's acrylic. It washes off." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point, Alex? That life has to be perfect? That you can't handle a little color outside the lines?" Her words stung more than he cared to admit. He hated mess, hated unpredictability, but looking at her standing there, cheeks flushed, eyes blazing with passion, he realized it wasn't just about paint. It was about her. About how she embodied everything he tried to control and everything he secretly craved. Later that night, guilt gnawed at him. He found her still working on the canvas, headphones in, lost in her world. For a while, he just watched, the way her hand moved confidently, how her brow furrowed when she concentrated. When she finally noticed him, she pulled out one earbud, defensive. "Here to critique my brush strokes?" Instead of answering, he crouched beside her. "What are you painting?" She hesitated, then turned the canvas toward him. It was an abstract cityscape, vibrant colors colliding and blending in ways he would never have imagined. Somehow it looked like chaos and order all at once. "It's how the city feels to me," she said quietly. "Messy, overwhelming, but beautiful if you look close enough." For once, Alex didn't correct her. Didn't point out the flaws or the paint on the floor. He just stared at the canvas, then at her. "It's beautiful," he admitted, the words strange on his tongue but true. Something in her softened then, her defensive walls lowering just a fraction. "Thanks," she whispered. The silence that followed wasn't tense this time. It was warm, charged, alive. Alex found himself lingering a little too close, his eyes drawn to her smile. He pulled back before the moment could stretch too far, retreating to his room under the excuse of needing sleep. But as he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, one thought refused to leave him. Maybe fate wasn't about grand gestures or perfect timing. Maybe it was about paint stains, pancakes, and the person you never expected to matter. And somehow Emma was starting to matter. More than he wanted to admit. By the time autumn arrived, Alex and Emma had fallen into a rhythm that felt strangely natural. They still bickered, of course they did. But beneath the sarcasm and stubbornness, something unspoken hummed between them. It was a Saturday evening when the walls between them first began to crumble. Alex had planned a quiet night in, his laptop open on the coffee table, reports spread around him. Emma had stormed in from the rain, hair plastered to her face, clothes soaked through. She kicked the door shut behind her and let out a guttural groan. "Tough day?" Alex asked dryly, not looking up from his screen. She dropped her bag with a thud. "You could say that. My professor hated my entire portfolio. Said my art lacks maturity." She mimicked the voice with exaggerated disgust before collapsing onto the couch beside him. "Do you know how much that hurts after weeks of not sleeping?" Alex hesitated. Comforting people wasn't exactly his strength. He glanced at her, noting the smudged eyeliner beneath her eyes, the tremble in her hands. For once, the sharp retort on his tongue died before it left his lips. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "That sucks." Her eyes flicked toward him, surprised. She gave a humorless laugh. "Wow." Empathy from Alex the robot. "Didn't know you had that feature." He rolled his eyes but couldn't help the small smirk tugging at his lips. "Don't get used to it." Silence stretched between them, heavier than usual. Emma tugged the throw blanket over her lap, staring down at her chipped nails. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer. You know, it's not just about the grade. It's like art is the only thing that makes sense to me. When someone tells me I'm not good enough at it, it feels like they're saying I'm not good enough. Period. Alex's chest tightened unexpectedly. He saw past the bravado, the teasing, the chaos, and for the first time he glimpsed the fragile thread beneath it all. He closed his laptop and set it aside, a deliberate choice. "You are good enough," he said quietly. "You're more than enough. Anyone who can put their soul on canvas the way you do, that takes guts." Emma blinked at him, caught off guard. She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "You really think so?" He nodded once, firmly. "I know so." Something shifted then. The air between them felt charged, fragile, like the world had tilted slightly off its axis. And then Emma laughed, breaking the moment. "Careful, Alex. You keep talking like that, and I might actually start to like you." He smirked, leaning back against the couch. Heaven forbid. But later that night, as Alex retreated to his room, the image of her vulnerable smile lingered stubbornly in his mind. The next week, it was Emma's turn to glimpse his cracks. She came home early one afternoon, surprised to hear raised voices from Alex's room. Curious, she moved closer and realized he was on the phone. "No, I can't come this weekend," his voice was clipped, tense. "I told you I'm busy. No, I don't care what he thinks. Yeah, well, maybe if you hadn't." The sound of something slamming, his fist against the desk maybe, made her flinch. Moments later, the door opened, and Alex froze when he saw her standing there. "What?" he snapped, defenses up like armor. Emma held up her hands. "Nothing. I just heard shouting. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." His tone was final, but his clenched jaw and stormy eyes told another story. She hesitated, debating whether to push. Against her better judgment, she asked softly, "Family?" The way his gaze flickered, just for a second, was all the answer she needed. "Alex," she began, but he cut her off. "Drop it, Emma." He brushed past her, heading for the kitchen. But later that evening, she found him sitting alone at the table, staring at a cold cup of coffee. His usual composure was cracked, shadows etched into his expression. Without a word, she slid into the chair across from him. For once, she didn't joke, didn't prod. She just sat there, silent, her presence steady. After a long while, he muttered, "My dad thinks I'm wasting my life. That I should have gone into finance like him. Every call turns into a fight." Emma's heart ached. "That's brutal." He shrugged stiffly. "I guess I'll never be good enough for him." She reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. "Then screw him. You don't need to be good enough for anyone but yourself." Alex looked at her, startled. Her hand was warm, grounding. For a moment, he let himself believe her. And for the first time since moving in, he realized he didn't feel quite so alone. That night, as Emma drifted to sleep, her last thought was that Alex wasn't the robot she'd teased him for being. He was complicated, messy in his own way. Just like her. And maybe, just maybe, fate had known exactly what it was doing when it shoved them under the same roof. By winter, Alex and Emma's strange little world had grown comfortable, too comfortable maybe. Their late-night talks, their unspoken care, the quiet gestures that said more than words ever could, it was as if they'd found a rhythm only they could hear. But with closeness came danger. And the line between roommates and something more blurred until neither of them could see it clearly anymore. It started with a party. Emma had invited her classmates over to celebrate finishing their midterms. She'd warned Alex, of course, but he hadn't realized a few people meant nearly 20 bodies crammed into their apartment. Music thumped against the walls, red plastic cups littered the counter, and laughter echoed through the halls. Alex stood in the kitchen, jaw tight, watching chaos unfold. He hated it. The noise, the mess, the strangers trampling through his space. And then he saw Emma. She was in the center of it all, radiant, laughing, her hair catching the light. A tall guy, one of her classmates, leaned close, whispering something that made her laugh harder. She touched the guy's arm casually, like it was nothing. But to Alex, it felt like a punch in the gut. He didn't realize how hard he was gripping his drink until it cracked slightly in his hand. When Emma finally slipped away from the crowd, she found Alex leaning against the counter, expression stormy. "Having fun?" she teased, still glowing from the energy of the party. "Loads," he said flatly. Her smile faltered. "Oh, come on. Don't be such a buzzkill. It's just one night. One night of strangers trashing the place?" He gestured sharply at the cups and spills. "One night of you," he cut himself off. "Of me what?" Her voice sharpened. Alex clenched his jaw. "Of you hanging all over some guy like you don't even live here with me." Emma's eyes widened, then narrowed. "Excuse me? I didn't realize I needed your permission to talk to people." "That's not what He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "Forget it." "No, say it," she demanded. "Because right now it sounds like you're jealous." The word hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. Alex's silence was all the confirmation she needed. Emma's face hardened. "Unbelievable. You act like you don't care, like nothing gets to you, but the second I have fun, suddenly you get possessive? That's not fair, Alex." He snapped, his voice louder than he intended. "Maybe it's because I do care, Emma. More than I should." The room went dead quiet around them. A few lingering guests glanced over before awkwardly slipping out. The music still thumped faintly in the background, but between them the silence was deafening. Emma's throat tightened. "Then why do you act like you don't? Why do you keep hiding behind walls and rules and, God, it's exhausting." "Because I don't know how to do this." Alex shot back. His voice cracked, raw. "I don't know how to let someone in without screwing it up. And if I screw this up with you, I'll lose the only good thing I've had in years." Her breath caught, tears burning her eyes. She wanted to believe him, wanted to reach across the chasm between them. But fear whispered louder. Fear of being hurt, fear of misreading everything. So she did the only thing her pride allowed. She turned away. "Maybe we made a mistake moving in together," she whispered. The words landed like a blade. Alex froze, his chest hollow. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Emma's footsteps retreated down the hall, her door slamming shut like a final period. The apartment was unbearably silent the next day. Emma avoided him completely, leaving early and coming home late. Alex buried himself in work, but nothing drowned out the echo of her words. Maybe we made a mistake. Every time he passed her closed door, it felt like walking by something broken he couldn't fix. And yet, in the stillness of the nights, both of them lay awake, replaying the same moments, the same fight, wondering if fate had finally pushed them together only to tear them apart. Neither wanted to admit it, but the truth was clear. They weren't just roommates anymore. They had become something more. Something terrifying. Something worth losing sleep over. And maybe, just maybe, something worth fighting for. The week after the fight felt like purgatory. The apartment, once buzzing with sarcastic banter and clashing personalities, now sat hollow. Emma avoided Alex at every turn, slipping out before he woke, shutting herself in her room the moment she returned. Alex tried to act like it didn't matter. He told himself he could live with the silence. He'd survived worse before. But every time he saw her mug left in the sink, or the faint smell of her paint in the air, his chest tightened like a vice. He couldn't do this anymore. On Friday evening, Alex came home early. The apartment was quiet, except for faint music coming from Emma's room. He stood outside her door for a long time, hand hovering before finally knocking. No answer. He swallowed hard and spoke anyway. "Emma, I know you don't want to talk to me. I probably don't deserve it. But I need you to hear this." There was a shuffle inside, but still no reply. I was an idiot, Alex continued, his voice rough. I got jealous, and instead of admitting how I felt, I lashed out. I thought keeping walls up would protect me, but all it did was push you away. And losing you, it scared the hell out of me. Silence stretched, heavy. Then, quietly, her door opened. Emma stood there, arms crossed, eyes red from crying but burning with defiance. Do you even know what you're saying? She asked, her voice trembling. Alex nodded, heart hammering. Yeah. I'm saying I don't just want you as a roommate. I don't want the apartment without your music in the kitchen, or your art supplies everywhere, or your pancakes that always burn on one side. His throat tightened. I want you. Even if it's messy. Even if I screw it up. I want to try. With you. Emma's breath hitched. She searched his face, looking for cracks, for insincerity. All she found was raw honesty. Her walls crumbled. God, Alex, she whispered, stepping closer. You're infuriating. You're stubborn. You drive me crazy. Her hand pressed against his chest, right over his racing heart. But you're also the only person who makes me feel seen. And I'm so tired of pretending I don't feel this too. Before he could respond, she closed the space between them, her lips crashing against his. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, years of fear and longing unraveling in a single kiss. Alex froze for half a second, then cupped her face, pulling her closer, deepening it. The world outside disappeared. There was only Emma, her warmth, her tears, her laughter breaking through as she kissed him again and again. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, she rested her forehead against his. So what now? Alex smiled, a real smile, unguarded and wide. Now? We stop pretending we're just roommates. Emma laughed softly, wiping her cheeks. Deal. That night, the apartment felt alive again. Music played low from Emma's speaker, the scent of her candles filling the air. Alex sat beside her on the couch, her legs draped across his lap, her head resting on his shoulder. For the first time in a long time, he felt at home. As Emma drifted off against him, he glanced down at her and whispered words he wasn't ready to say out loud before, but knew he'd say soon. I love you. And though she was half asleep, she smiled, murmuring back, I love you too. Fate hadn't made a mistake. It had taken two people who never would have chosen each other, two opposites destined to clash, and forced them into the same space. And in the chaos, in the mess, in the arguments and laughter and late-night confessions, they had found love. Not despite their differences, but because of them. They weren't just roommates anymore. They were everything.